Meeting, please rise for the pledge to the flag, which is right up here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This is the Woodbury Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. If you needed another meeting, you're in the wrong place. All right, our board members, to your far right, we have Mr. Joseph DiVenuto, Mr. Gary Kestenbaum, Mr. Kevin Abrams, Mr. Craig Brady. To your far left, you have Mr. Robert Dickover, our attorney, who's substituting for Mr. Michael Donnelly this evening, our recording secretary, Ms. Jessica McLennan, and I'm Karen Ungerer. We meet the second Wednesday of every month. Our next meeting is May 8th here at Village Hall. All right, we're going to go to the agenda now. We have no executive session. Has everyone read the minutes from last month, from March 13th? Do I have a motion to accept them?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, no new business, no action on decisions. Public hearings. The agenda has several items listed. However, 3 of them are off the agenda for this evening. The Shops of Woodbury has requested that we postpone until next month. Is anyone here, since it's public hearing, to speak to Shops at Woodbury? Alrighty. The Falkowitz application is also on hold till next month. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak to that application? Okay. Letter C, the second page. Aldi is also asked for a postponement till next month. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak to that application? All right, so now we have Pulver, Rushmore Estate Winery public hearing, which is open.
Wait a minute, let's make a motion to carry them over.
Oh, okay, right, I'm sorry.
I'll make a motion, we carry those 3 over to the May 8th meeting.
Have a second? I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Sorry about that, Kevin, thank you.
That's okay.
Okay. We have here the Pulver/Rushmore Estate Winery public hearing for an area variance to permit the proposed use of a farm winery. Whereas pursuant to Section 310-39(1)B, winery access must be to New York State Route 32, and applicant proposes access through Quaker Road, a village road, and Ice House Road, a private road. Said property is located in the R1A zoning district at 14 Castleton Drive in Highland Mills and is known on the Village of Woodbury tax maps as Section 202, Block 1, Lot 70 and 79. I see that the applicant is present. So what you wish to do is you wish to have a winery on your 49-ish acres of land, which is a permitted use in that zoning district. The problem is the access, which the code requires direct access to Route 32, which you do not have. So you're here to seek the variance for access from Quaker Road onto Ice House Road, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, is that mic on?
Nope.
There's a button on the bottom. Jeff, you want to help him with that? Or Joe?
Karen, just for clarity, if it's a permitted use, I don't know why we're asking for an area. Wouldn't they need a use variance of something like this?
Road isn't a use variance, is it, Mr. Dickover?
No.
It's an area variance.
Okay.
All right, so for the record, my name is Jay Myro, Bluestein, Shapiro, Rich, and Barone. I'm the attorney for the applicant. I'm here with Seth Pulver, who is the principal, Michael Galante, who is our traffic expert, and Larry Tuoro, who is our civil engineer. So there's a little bit of history with this project and with this board. We started this project well over a year ago. We were in front of the planning board. We determined that we required this one variance, and at that time, we had requested that the planning board just consider conducting an uncoordinated review under seeker. The board decided at that time not to do that, but referred us to your board anyway. We came here, we advised the board that planning board was lead agency, that you couldn't act till the planning board issued either a negative declaration. And at that point, it became apparent to the board, certainly to me, that it would be enormously difficult for this board to act on the variances without having a secret determination, at least be able to look into the items that were required. And based on that, we went back to the planning board and to get back on that agenda to express what had been made clear to us by you. At the last board meeting in the planning board, the board reconsidered. They rescinded the coordinated review, and they agreed to proceed with an uncoordinated review under seeker. So, and Mr. Dickover will probably fill in the blanks here, but that means each involved agency will make its own secret determination based on the issues before them. So what is different today than the last time we were with you is that now you're going to undertake a secret review, make a finding under secret before you make the decision on this variance. And in that respect, we did submit a short form environmental assessment form. And I'm going to guess that you don't do a lot of secret determinations. Either the majority of your work is either type 2 actions where secret doesn't apply, or that the planning board is the one who makes those. I'm guessing that's the case.
That is the case,
I don't want to
yes.
offend anybody, but I'm assuming this is
That is
probably
the
the
case.
first time in a while that you've done this. So, Rob, I'm going to guess you're going to advise the board as to what their obligations are under seeker. So basically, at this point, because it's an uncoordinated review, you're going to actually make two decisions on this project. One is you're going to review the environmental impacts, and you're going to either give a neg deck or you're not. Assuming we can get to a negative declaration, I don't think this particular issue is hard to get there, but until you do that, you won't be able to consider the area variance application. So in both respects, we're prepared to submit whatever evidence you're going to need. We've already submitted the original traffic study that we did plus a supplement, and that the original traffic study we had done was to analyze the proposal as to how we were going to gain access to Ice House Road off of Quaker Road instead of directly off 32. We subsequently, after that study was done, Mr. Galante did a separate analysis, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, of the traffic impacts that will occur on Ice House Road. So I believe, have completed a traffic study for impacts off of 32 onto Quaker Road, onto Ice House Road, up to the premises. Yes, please.
Have we received the second one?
Yes.
Where is that?
We submitted 15
Oh, okay.
copies of the full traffic
That's this-
report, plus that included the supplement. But I'll let Mike.
Okay. So they're both together is what you're saying? They're both included in the summary and in the,
Well, Mike Galante, Frederick Clark Associates. We did a full traffic report last summer
right,
that was dated, I forget, August or September.
November.
The village, no, that's the second one, because we
Oh, that's the
expanded.
second one,
We
okay.
expanded the original full report based on comments from the village's traffic consultant. He asked us to look at it Friday evening, and he added the one intersection of County Route 44 at 32. The first report was Saturday and Sunday analyses. The last report is a letter report, which was an analysis of Ice House Road, in particular, as far as the type of road, the improvements to the road, and from a traffic perspective.
Yeah.
It's the letter report, yes.
Right.
So you actually have three reports at this point, but the expanded traffic report from November is really the final full-blown traffic report that you
Gotcha.
would have. Okay, for
Yes,
now?
thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So that's part of what we submitted. Mr. Toro submitted updated drawings. I believe since the last time we were here, Mr. Pulver purchased one property along Ice House Road, and two properties since we were last here. There was a bottleneck on Ice House. Larry, am I right about that? There was a bottleneck on Ice House where the private road basically narrowed to a very narrow point, and that was a concern. By purchasing the property, we're now able to accommodate a 24-foot wide road for the entire length of Ice House Road. So was a significant improvement over the first plan.
Are there easements on the properties that are there, or?
There will be
Is
an
this-
easement over one of Mr. Pulver's property to accommodate that. Otherwise, it's all fee title owned by Mr. Pulver.
So the road will not encroach on anyone's property unless they
It
think
will
it's their
be-
property and it's an in other words,
There will be,
they may, they may have their lawn to here, but the property that Mr. Pulver owns actually is maybe 12 foot back or something, and they will then use that.
there'll be a permanent.
You won't be
there'll
taking anybody else's property, is my
No,
my
it'll just be
question.
Mr. Pulver's
Okay.
to accomplish that.
Okay.
Yes. So that's one physical improvement that's occurred since we were, no, not physical, but that's one conceptual improvement that's been made since we were last here. Other than that, I'm assuming the board will have questions and items that you probably may want information on. We're going to certainly provide anything you may need.
Pretty sure we do.
Right. Okay, and then regarding the issue as to the variance, your code specifies that that any winery must have frontage must front directly on 32. This particular circumstance, we're 450 feet from 32 coming
Off of
south. It's a left turn off of 32. No, coming
Going-
north. It's
Going
a
north,
left
it's a left turn. Coming south, it's a right
Coming
turn.
right, we've proposed a right turn onto Quaker, so that we have basically two ways to get to Quaker.
Yeah, it would be, if you,
We're not proposing access as exactly the same point for left and right turns
so
off of
coming south would be onto Evans, right? Not Quaker. Okay,
Evans,
right.
which would then turn onto Quaker, if I understand
Right,
correctly.
correct.
I mean, part of my feeling about that is that we've basically lessened the intensity of traffic turning to the winery. We put it in two different spots. We've eliminated a sharp right turn onto Quaker by having the access off the other side. Mr. Galante's report clearly shows that there's no issues with turning radiuses or anything with that respect. We think it's a good plan. And we, basically, by looking at this in its totality, that 450-foot distance probably doesn't create a detriment to the public. It's a very safe traffic plan. It accomplishes pretty much what you would hope for in terms of gaining access to this facility.
Well, you do understand if you make that right onto Evans, it's a lot more than 450 feet, and it goes through a residential area.
That's correct.
Plus, I don't think those roads are really, there's no lines down there, is there?
No, I don't believe so.
I mean, that's not a road that,
And I've driven it so many times I never noticed, but I don't think there are.
Village Road.
Well, listen, we have the same concerns, so that's why we had a rather thorough traffic study done to make sure that the quality of the roads is sufficient, the lining is sufficient.
Well, I think the quality of the roads are probably sufficient for the amount of traffic that travels it now. But I'm not 100% sure that adding who knows how many cars onto a road.
That's exactly why we presented the traffic study.
Well,
I'm not,
yeah,
I can't,
That's,
well, it's
I'm just-
it's an expert opinion, it's empirical data. That's significant.
yeah, and I also have concerns about people traveling south on 32 making a right-hand turn there.
Oh, in case they miss Evans?
No. Yeah. Evans is
talking
not an
about-
easy road to find, you know, that's, you can zip by
Yeah,
that really
that's
quick.
true, that's true.
But then you're gonna have to go up to Quaker, and then you're gonna have to make a right-hand turn, and is that gonna be, you know, is that gonna be any sort of a turning lane? I mean, or is that just gonna
Karen,
block traffic? That's
can I make a
my
suggestion?
concern.
Gary?
I think all of us share the concerns that Kevin is bringing up, the direction that he's going in. Is it possible that Jay could have Mr. Galani take us through the section of the traffic study that speaks to the safety and suitability of those roads that he's discussing, and show us how he contends that they're safe and suitable for large vehicle traffic?
Well, the study gives you numbers.
Well, you know, those are counts. I'm not talking about the
Mike,
quantitative. I'm talking about
I
the
would
qualitative.
probably want to hear more from the highway superintendent about those roads before I, he's got to manage them and maintain them.
Talking about Mr. Pulver.
No, I'm talking about Rob Wyant, the highway super.
Oh, you're talking about Evans and Quaker?
Evans and Quaker.
Evans and Quaker.
Go ahead.
From a procedural standpoint, we have two different issues, right? We have secret, which has to be determined, then we can talk about the variance. Does it make sense
Well,
to do that first?
Right, but we are talking about probably secret because we're talking
There-
about the traffic. We're not talking about the variance they want on the road.
So I have a question from a secret perspective. From the standpoint of, we're not doing a full-blown secret for the entire project in the property, correct? We're dealing specifically with the context of the road?
So for purposes of SECRA, your analysis will be on the particular application, it's a use variance. That would be the focus of your analysis.
Area
Site-
variance.
Yeah, sorry, the area variance.
I was-
The site plan elements, the other issues, those will be in front of the planning board.
Right.
For housekeeping purposes, this board should declare itself as lead agency on this application, resolve to conduct an uncoordinated review, just as the planning board did. Type this action, I believe it's an unlisted type action. Once you've done that, then you can start to ask the questions, take the information you need. When you think you have enough information to review the short form EAF, which has been presented to you, you can do that. Upon doing so, then if you feel you're ready, make an environmental determination on the project. So that's one aspect of this process. The second aspect, of course, is to take the information from the applicant as well as any other people that you might want to bring in question. Perhaps it's a highway superintendent, or solicit a letter from him with respect to the quality of the road, its ability to withstand the type of traffic that's being projected here, and of course, open the public meeting for comments from the public.
Oh,
I
definitely.
do believe we have an issue with respect to public,
Yeah, there was an error in noticing, so the public hearing will remain open. Apparently, the county only gave notice to half of the street, one side of the street, not the other. So
Right,
we
so
will
the
keep
other
the
half
public
has
hearing
the
open, but
opportunity
I
to come
don't,
next month.
right.
So as a result of that, we'll hear any members of the public this evening. Should we decide
Oh,
to
yeah,
do so,
definitely.
And then hold the meeting open. We also perhaps, Jay, have a 239 issue here. I don't know if this matter has been referred to the county, but it will need to be, I think. Within
Maria would know
500
that.
Within 500 feet, I believe, of the county or county highway. or state
We do it
highway.
for everything.
So
They all, yeah.
you need to send this to the Orange County Department of Planning for their comments. They'll have 30 days after the referral to comment back to you. If they fail to do so, you can take action. If they do comment, you'll of course consider their comments and their replies.
Yeah, they'll actually get it twice, right? They'll get
They
it
will get it.
once, right, that's right.
So that probably concludes my comments on that.
Thank you.
So should we make a motion for a type, to make a, declare ourselves lead agency for an uncoordinated review?
I'll make that motion,
And to type it as
And
unlisted.
and type it as unlisted. Do I have a motion?
yes.
Do you understand what I'm asking, Joe?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
The motion is that we're
We're gonna be
Declare
lead
us
agency.
of an unlisted
uncoordinated
motion.
review, lead agency, and type 1.
Type
All
one.
right.
Unlisted.
Unlisted, I'm sorry, not type 1.
So the motion,
One more time for Jessica.
Okay. Declare ourselves lead agency
no.
in an uncoordinated review.
Yes.
What did I miss?
Type it unlisted.
Oh, right, and type it as unlisted. Okay, so is that your motion, Kevin?
Yes, that's my motion, yes.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You got that, Jess? Okay. All right. So with that, we can start asking questions on the short form, correct?
If you think you're ready to do that, perhaps you want to get some more
I would really
information
like
from
to
the applicant.
preview this
Yeah, I was
more.
going to ask, yeah.
I would really like more time to,
I did notice that your short EAF that you submitted is exactly the same as the previous short EAF that you submitted. So you don't see any
issues are-
change in any of the issues? Okay. So we will
So-
gather more information before we ask more questions on this, or do you want to start asking questions now?
no, I'd like to review it more myself.
The EAF.
Being a bit of a rookie at this, we can ask this time and we can ask in May as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't need to make a decision tonight. We can ask.
That's correct. You
Ask
can't
away.
make a decision tonight because you don't have a 239 referral back, so you can't
Right.
make a decision this evening.
Do you want the highway superintendent here next?
For purposes of road maintenance for the village, you're talking about?
Well, I don't know whether he has to be here, but I think I'd like to see a letter on how he feels about unstriped roads that's going to be used for a commercial business in a residential area.
Yeah, I think it would be worthwhile to have him take a look at the
Yeah.
traffic study and make comments and get back to us with those.
Karen?
Do we need to make a motion on that, or is that just a request? No.
Referral.
But I would like to do this next month. If you guys have questions, that's fine.
Okay, well,
One, I'd like to hear from the audience. And two, I'd like to really study this.
If I can also point out that we also provided copies of the report to Mr. Collins, the village's traffic
Traffic
consultant. I would think you may want him here next time. If you're expecting full detail from us,
that would probably.
his
I was
comments.
Yes,
gonna
I
ask
know
for
you are, yeah. Yeah, so could we request that, Jess? Thank you.
He already does have a copy of the
I
report.
mean, I went through some of this, but I didn't know that we were going to be doing it.
Well, I knew we were going to be doing it, but I didn't know.
So I'd really like to
The
look
order.
at each question, look at their answers, and then think about it.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
just
why
so
don't we
you-
ask? Go
Okay.
ahead.
Listen, I don't know if you addressed this, but, there's signage proposals and advertising that we're planning to do to make sure that the public is going to know where they're supposed to enter. There will be signage at or before Evans to indicate to the public that what they read on the website or otherwise, they see that the map wants them to come in off of Evans. If it's 95% effective, it's going to be significantly effective. There'll be signage for traffic northbound to turn on Quaker. So we think we can accomplish that. I think Mike can speak to that as to how effective those measures typically are. So we've thought this, we understand that concern about coming off of Evans, making sure the traffic comes onto Evans, and that Evans can support this. So I'm happy to have Mike speak. Mike or Larry can speak for any questions you may have, but carry on.
Okay, one of my concerns is the entire traffic study really addresses how Ice House Road can be made into a viable road for the winery. You know, how it's going to be graded, how wide it is going to be, how its signage will be there, and how safe it'll be, et cetera, et cetera. But there is nothing there about the effect on the residents, and we're talking not only Ice House Road now, but we're talking Evans and all the way down Quaker and all those side, Scaglione Court, all those streets that are surrounding there's nothing there on how they're going to affect the residents there and the safety. And in the report, in this little tiny one on Ice House Road, it mentions that Ice House Road will become the roadway will be upgraded and function as a local road.
Karen, which page are you quoting
This is
from?
on page 4 of the little one. Page 4 at the top, it says, "The fact that this roadway will be upgraded and function as a local road, blah, 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 will meet standards and provide adequate operational characteristics to serve not only the 6 homes, but the proposed winery." Now, I understand that this is going to remain a private road. However, back in, I think it was 2003, just give me a moment, I will find it. Well, 2003, there were concerns when Brigadoon was being built. The planning board chair, Sheila Conroy, said special sensitivity in road and house placement should be given to the existing homes, especially those on Ice House Road. So way back when, there were concerns to the residents on Ice House Road. Back in 1997, an applicant came before the zoning board to acquire a piece of property, which was a building lot, but needed frontage on a public road. And because it fronted on Ice House Road, the person just wanted it as a buffer. And so they came before the planning board, the zoning board, and one of the things that was said in this application was that Ice House Road will remain a private road, which we understand, and is entirely too narrow to construct a road to the specifications of the town of Woodbury. Now, somewhere in all of this paperwork, I see that it says that the village has already approved that this road could be gravel. Where is that? Somewhere I read, somewhere, it even says in that traffic site, this will be a gravel road, and they said the village already approved that. Somewhere I read that. I'm concerned, a gravel road in snow and ice. I'm worried about a lot of things about this road.
It's in the fourth
Can I
paragraph
ask
on the
you
first
who
page.
the applicant
okay.
was in 97?
I'm
Can I
sorry,
ask you
what?
who the applicant was in 97?
It was it was Rushmore, it was June 25th, 1997, Rushmore Associates.
It was, all right. Maybe I can address the 2003 one first. If there was a concern about Brigadoon affecting Ice House, there was never a through road done. There's nothing. there's
No, what happened
connection.
was Mr. Pulver gave up, I think, that C5's cul-de-sac, correct, for those 8 and 9 lots, and then 2 driveways were built, correct? So that there would be no access to Ice House, so it would be closed for that.
And that's going to be the case here.
So my point is that if there was concern about Ice House Road back then and the residents, why isn't there concern now?
I don't know what that concern was.
The amount of traffic is, I believe it's the amount of traffic.
But it was tied to Brigadoon.
Right, but now
Right,
it's
and it was
tied to the winery.
Well, you know what, I'll be happy to look at the minutes on those. You know what minutes would I look out at the 2003 one?
Karen, my
No.
recollection from back then, that it was a complete unsuitability. Again, I keep using that
The
word
road, you mean?
over and over again, hoping that it will stick. That the whole use of Ice
You were on the
House Road
planning
under-
board at that time, correct?
I was. Under the circumstance, was unsuitable. It wasn't even up for discussion, if you know what I mean. It was an unquestioned assumption that Ice House Road would not be used as a thoroughfare. They didn't even get
For what-
into numbers and the like because it was clear that it was unsuitable at the time.
For what purpose?
As access to Rushmore Estates, which is what
It's always been an access.
Which is what it was called at the time.
It's an access to Rushmore Estates.
It was considered unsuitable for the 100-plus homes that ultimately.
Oh, okay, well, we agree with that. We're not proposing 100-plus roads. We're proposing one proposed use.
No, I understand, but
Right.
what I'm saying was there was no discussion at the time to consider, well, in the future, it was considered to be unsuitable.
It sounds, well, the reference that the chairman just made to building to town specs, if it was ever contemplated that this was going to be a public road, you need 50 feet. That clearly was never going to happen. So I agree with you with that. But in terms of being an appropriate thoroughfare as a private road at 24 feet, we can prove that meets basically any standard that you would need to have a two-way traffic road on a private road. So what occurred in 97 and 2003?
Jay, I guess my argument is that, again, to your point, Karen, at the time, it was considered to be unsuitable for automobile traffic. Now you're talking about the adding in of potential oversized
Right, but you-
vehicles, buses.
Okay, that was 2003?
No,
97?
in that, I can't say it
Okay,
was
so that
97,
was
but-
20 years ago. I think you're obligated to look at the condition of the road now and what we have to propose to you. I mean, you can't decide this case based on what you knew in 97. You can't decide this case based on that evidence.
I'm not doing that. All I was doing was confirming.
Right. Okay.
I think we should get
The
more
points
on
that
track
Karen was
there.
bringing up.
Right. Listen, there was the bond.
It has been consistently considered to be unsuitable for that
All
application.
right, you don't believe that, do you believe that to be the case today?
I'm sorry, I was listening to him, not you.
Well, he was asking me a question,
Oh, okay.
but I wasn't going to encroach on your conversation.
No.
Hey,
Can I just comment on that?
Yes, certainly.
You know, the road as it stands. or
Excuse
as
me,
it
can you
was
speak
20
into the
years ago-
microphone?
Yes, please.
The road as it stands now.
Seth, you got to speak for the record who you are.
Okay, I'm Seth Pulver, and what I was saying was that, I just lost my train of thought introducing myself.
Sorry.
Right, the road does need significant work. It's not that we're proposing to use it the way it is, but we've shown that we have the width in my ownership of the private road. If I was to extend it to that distance and upgrade it with proper grading and proper base and proper surface, that it would be more than adequate for what we're proposing.
Do you plan to put lighting?
Sure,
What about the utility poles at the base?
we're going to have to.
They'd have
deal-
to be moved.
We may have to move one or two, yep.
So I see you have it surveyed out, staked out now.
We've had, yeah,
So we had a pretty good idea where that road was going to go.
quite a bit of engineering done so far, and a
Yeah.
lot more to do still. I mean, I want to make sure that everybody, is happy with the way things are built, and that the neighbors are all at least feeling that I'm doing the best I can to address their concerns, which I certainly am. Obviously, there's going to be some impact where there was no business, there's going to be a business now. But everybody who I think is going to comment here, the people I recognize are people that live on Ice House Road, and when they purchased their houses, they should have been aware that that road was not a public road, and that it was a private road, and there was a chance that the owner may decide to do something different with his land. So that was due diligence I think they should have done at that point.
Right, however, it still doesn't access Route 32, so that
Of
wouldn't have
course.
been in their minds when they bought the property.
Yes.
Karen,
And I plan on.
would you entertain having Mike Galante go through, call out the sections of the report that, again, speak to how the route from 32 to Evans to Quaker to Ice House is suitable for oversized vehicles? I didn't see that. To me, that's missing. Maybe I missed it. I'd like him to go through that.
Well, maybe Rob Wyatt will be able to
Yeah,
do
but I'm
that.
more interested in what the
I'm
highway
I'm saying
superintendent says.
I also am. I'm
Well,
not-
this could
I'm not-
say whatever you
I'm not-
want it
I'm
to
not-
say.
I'm not saying that one should speak and one shouldn't. I'm saying
I think that-
their argument was that they believe that this is
Everything is
suitable.
viable and suitable,
Could
right.
they take me through the section that says
If
that?
Rob Wyatt says everything's fine, then I have to take him for,
Could he show me that? Would you entertain him showing me that?
He can show you that if that's what you wish to see.
Where do you speak to that in the report? That's all I'm asking.
Again, Mike Galante, Frederick Clark Associates. It would make sense to refer to the November 2018 traffic report, which is the report that's based on traffic volumes. Let me see the front. Yeah, is that November?
yes.
Yes.
That report is a pure traffic study, meaning we collected traffic data at several intersections, Friday evening, Saturday all day, Sunday. We identified the traffic volumes on the roads today during the different peak hours. We estimated traffic for the winery at a full-use winery in the future. We used very high numbers for the purposes of the analysis. We decided where the traffic flow was coming from and to go to the winery, and I'll point that out in a minute. I'm just giving you an overview first. Then we analyzed basically a before and after, without the winery and with the winery. And from a traffic perspective, we look at levels of service and delay. I'm sure you've heard those terms before. And what is the impact on the roads from a traffic perspective? So from a level of service, which means measuring delay, these are stop sign controlled intersections. They will continue to operate at what we call acceptable levels of service, and your traffic consultant would agree with that process that we go through. That's the same process the town village uses, the same process New York State Department of Transportation would use. Route 32 is a state highway, of course. And if I'll just point. I guess I can stand over here. This might be a little bit easier to see from there. This is just one of the graphics from the report itself. It's figure 4. It's the Saturday afternoon peak hour volumes. We did actual turn and movement counts at all the different locations at Ridge Road, Route 44, at Hazard Lane at 32, Quaker Road at 32, Ice House Road at Quaker, and Evans Drive at 32 itself. I would guess that Hazard and Quaker and Evans is really the old Route 32, if you look at the alignment of the road itself from the past. That's just a point. I'm not saying...
Probably is.
Yeah, I mean, it's typical what New York State did many years ago as far as aligning or realigning state roads to make them state roads. We analyzed all the volumes just for reference purposes. Route 32 carries around 600 or 700 vehicles in a peak hour. That's a two-way volume, just for reference purposes. Quaker Road carries around 35 to 60 vehicles today, two-way volumes during the peak hours on Saturday and Sunday. We actually counted the winery up the road on Route 32 on a Saturday and Sunday to say, well, what is that operating as far as traffic for comparison purposes? That was generating anywhere from 35 to 60 trips during its peak Saturday and Sunday, and we always deal with 1 hour periods in traffic studies. We took a worst case and went to what's called the Trip Generation Handbook, which is a document prepared and published by the Institute of Transportation Engineers. It's a book on all different types of land uses, and there is a winery in there. So we went and said, okay, if you have a winery with 4,000 square feet for a tasting room, which is our proposal, how much traffic would that generate? And now that's wineries in Virginia, Illinois, not necessarily Orange County, but we took those trip rates and applied it here, and it says this on a very busy Saturday and Sunday could generate 150 trips in a 1 hour period. We use those numbers for the analysis. We don't expect that, but we use that in the analysis. Generally speaking, we think 60% of the traffic is coming from the south, from the Route 17, the 87 interchange and so on. The remaining 40% or so coming from the north and coming down 32. That translates into the right turn on Evans Road and the left turn coming northbound onto Quaker Road. So the site traffic is essentially split. So if we have about 150 vehicles in a 1 hour period, evenly split, we have about 75 vehicles in round numbers approaching from each direction. From the south, they're turning left onto Quaker Road from 32. Coming southbound, they're turning right onto Evans Drive. So generally speaking, that's the split of site traffic. All of that traffic comes to the Ice House Road intersection, which will be an improved intersection, certainly more than it is today, and the improved Ice House Road into the site itself. We've analyzed each of these intersections Friday night, Saturday afternoon, Sunday afternoon with the highest volumes recorded as far as the traffic counts that we actually did last summer. And we analyzed it before and after. We essentially add the 75 vehicles, depending on each intersection, that level of traffic by direction to the intersections. They're all stop sign control. We analyze it before and after, and it essentially says they'll continue to operate at what we call, as traffic engineers, acceptable levels of service, reasonable delay. School is, level of service in school is great, everything's perfect. Level of service A in traffic engineering is it operates with free flow. If you go down the scale to C, it's average conditions. In traffic engineering, it's average conditions, average delay. As you go down to D, E, and F, there's an E in traffic engineering. There's no E in school. If you go down to level of service F, It's essentially traffic congestion. We used to call it failure, but it's just severe traffic congestion. All of the ratings on these intersections that a stop sign are A to C. So just to give you an idea where the range is as far as traffic conditions. So from a traffic perspective, I'm very comfortable that these roads can handle the traffic. Now, there's a discussion about the roads themselves. Quaker and Evans are two-lane roads. I don't think they have a center line. I'd have to check. They're about 24 feet wide, maybe wider at certain points. Sight lines at the Quaker Road, if you're coming from the south, are good. Coming down on 32 at Evans, you'll know coming out of Evans and looking to your left, looking northbound, there's a significant clearing of trees and vegetation by the state, I would assume it's all in the state right-of-way, to maintain and provide that appropriate sight distance for the speed of motorists traveling on Route 32. So we look at all of these aspects in looking at traffic, overall safety, access to the site. So we've come to the conclusion these roads, from a traffic perspective, can handle the traffic. As far as impact particular intersections, we believe that traffic can be handled, and we're looking at a very busy, very seasonal, perfect day in the summertime as far as our analysis. If we compare it to the other winery that's nearby, we just happen to have one, we actually did the traffic counts. The volumes are much lower than what we actually use in the analysis. The letter that's from not long ago, and I forget the exact date, is just really an assessment of Ice House Road. But keep in mind, Ice House Road today is not a great road. I don't want to call it substandard, but it's substandard. The idea with this application is to improve that road, bring it up to current standards. And yes, it is gravel, and I thought that the village had said that they would approve that. And maybe I didn't use the right wording, but I think there's been some discussion about it being a gravel road as opposed to a paved road. But it'd be brought up to 24 feet in width. The alignment would be modified, so you're raising the standard of that road, and in my mind, it's still considered a local road, and the operation of that road with the traffic on it would continue to operate at a very acceptable levels of service and operational characteristics.
Mike, let me just
Yes,
make one.
absolutely.
The question that I asked was, and I appreciate the information, but it was specific to oversized vehicles, not passenger vehicles.
Okay, thank you for reminding me. I was going to get to that. In the analysis, we're certainly looking at passenger vehicles, but as far as Ice House Road in the future with improvements, we need to look at, I would assume, emergency vehicles such as a fire truck, oversized,
I was
and potentially
specifically
buses.
thinking of
And
buses and
buses.
trucks to supply materials.
Yeah.
Buses to bring people in and out, oversized
Well, they're not
limos, whatever.
Well, let's leave limos out for the moment. Let's look at buses and emergency vehicles and delivery trucks and so on. On a 24-foot wide road with the alignment that meets today's standards, a truck or bus can be accommodated on that type of road. Now, the final design of this road has not been provided, but it would be designed to accommodate that. The fire department would certainly want to have a road that gives them access to this facility as it's hopefully built in the future. So the answer is it'd have to be.
All right, all I was saying was, I looked at the document, I know you're saying it in front of this board, but the documents didn't speak to what you're saying.
You are correct. I didn't speak specifically to, you call it oversized vehicles, buses, emergency vehicles. That's purely a traffic document. And that's why I said it's a traffic document. Maybe a supplemental document needs to go with the improvements or engineering plans for that road to provide those details.
To Kevin's point, if you did come up with a supplemental document making those opinion absolute statements, then it would give our traffic engineer and the highway superintendent an opportunity to evaluate that.
Sure.
And determine
Sure.
whether or not they agree.
Well, when I spoke to Mr. Collins, which is the town village's traffic consultant, he specifically said you should look at Ice House Road as far as from an operational volume point of view. And that's why I did exactly what I did in that letter.
I would also include, in your statement, whatever it is you include Evans and Quaker
Sure.
and the turns on and off of each other.
Okay.
And 32.
And
whatever your statement is, make it, and then let the traffic,
Make
the
his
highway
opinion.
superintendent opine on that.
Absolutely, and we're certainly happy to do that. But just backing up to Evans at 32 and Quaker at 32, they're not 90-degree intersections, so the comment is fair about turning movements into those streets. This location for southbound on Evans, turning right on Evans, works perfectly fine as far as radii and movements into the intersect. If we were coming down and turning right onto Quaker Road, I wouldn't be standing here and saying it works perfectly fine. We'd have to be recommending improvements to that road. It's one of the first things that we talked about when I was retained last summer. Can you make a turn onto Quaker Road if Evans didn't exist? Well, Evans does exist, and that's where you would make the right turn. Now, this, the state has trailblazing signing programs for wineries and so on. We would have that type of signing on 32, just like you have for the other winery up the road, to direct you to the winery and to direct you to the proper road to get to the winery.
But isn't that why the village has a law that the entrance must be on 32?
I would assume that's the case, but I can't answer that. Yep.
The problem I have right now is that the application says that there's only 450 feet on Quaker Road from 32, so Ice House Road is really only 450 feet. It's really a negligible amount, blah, 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 blah. But then tonight, you're coming and saying, oh, we're also going to go on Evans.
Well, I always made that comment, so I apologize if there's misunderstanding
that
between.
creates a whole nother issue. Now we have 450 feet from 32 on Quaker to Ice House Road, and I don't know how many feet from Evans
Yeah, I don't know
to Ice
either,
House
actually.
Road, and it's significantly more.
Correct.
So it significantly affects a lot more people. And the volume, you said in your in the two-way traffic volumes for peak hours for Evans Drive was an average of 7 vehicles. And
Today, that's today's volume, yes.
Right. And then you did the extrapolation for the proposed winery, which is 114. Now, to me, that's a significant increase. Even if you split it 50-50 or 75-75, you're getting a lot more vehicles.
From a percentage.
And they're coming on to, they got to come from 32 to Quaker or Evans to Quaker or whatever onto Ice House Road. So if they're going to the winery, and this is just for a peak hour, what about the rest of the time that the winery's open? So 114 hours between 1 and 2, and then maybe 50 between 4 and 5, or what? You're talking a lot of vehicles.
We're looking, I didn't hear that, but we're looking at the highest volumes, and that's why we look at what's called a peak hour. Other hours might be certainly lower volumes.
Right, but they'd still be added to that total amount of traffic that's
Yeah.
on Ice House Road.
Yeah, and keep in mind, in traffic engineering, if there's one car on the road and you add one car, you're doubling the traffic. From a traffic engineering, we look at levels of service and delay because percent increases are somewhat misleading. So we don't use that comparison. We did many years ago. We don't do it anymore because it's a misleading statement. So today's volume is very low in Evans, and certainly we're adding traffic without a doubt. But we look at it from an operational point of view and delay in measurements, and that's why we do it that way. And that's the way the state would look at it. And even the town, I'm sure the town's consultant would do the same thing.
Well,
But your comments are fair.
you're kind of agreeing with me, but on the EAF, both the old and the new, on question number 8, it says, will the proposed action result in a substantial increase in traffic above present levels? And you check no. But it will. I mean, just by your own numbers. And at the last year when Mr. Myra was here and we were questioning concerns, we had concerns about the traffic, he said, well, if after a traffic study it shows that there would be an increase in traffic, he would amend the EAF, but it hasn't been amended.
Okay.
So what's your response to that?
Well, first of all, there's always an increase in traffic, and I would never stand up and say there's no impact. There's always an
Right,
impact.
but substantial.
Yeah, but substantial from a traffic operational, which is the measurement and delay, and shows that there's not a significant impact. So I still agree with that statement that's been checked off. There's no
Really?
significant
You don't
impact.
think it's going to be an impact on the neighborhood?
No. I'm saying there's always an impact. I'm just saying, what is that impact? And I'm saying from a traffic point of view, the impact can be accommodated on those roads.
What you're saying is the roads can handle the traffic.
Yeah.
Right.
From
and
a
that's-
traffic perspective.
We're not,
Yeah. I'm not here to measure what the
There is a
impact is on someone's
Karen?
home.
All right,
Being that we're doing this time, I would also like Rob to review number 17, the highway department. Because I don't think the planning
Stormwater
board is
discharge.
going to do
well, we will have to look at that.
I want to know about if there's going to be any water from this road and changing things and moving things, and is the water got a place to go? That's what I really want to know from him. Is the proper drainage going to be installed?
Well, if we approve a road, that would be
Is
the
gravel
planning
road
board
gonna come all the
purview.
way down to Quaker?
Yes.
So then people pulling out of Ice House Road could end up spinning their tires and not getting out quick enough. And You know, I'm concerned about that too.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think since we're doing this, I think we need to gather the information, and I think that the highway super is gonna be,
Yeah, I'm thinking also we need, we'll
and maybe that
let
other
this
guy.
gentleman speak first, and then I'll say what I'm going to say.
Larry Toro, Civil Tech Engineering.
Excuse me,
Ha-
can you spell your last name? Sorry.
Torro.
Thank you.
Right, the final design then hasn't been set. When we said gravel could be a tar and chip. At the same token, at the entrance, we can always put a paved apron. So there's ways around those issues. It hasn't been finalized yet.
I know, but we have to make the decision on this, not the planning board, so
Well, they're going to make.
I need the information.
That may, fine, it could be one of the mitigating measures.
Right.
If I can clarify on the EAF, I'm expecting that we read significant or substantial to mean unacceptable. So we understand there's going to be
No,
increases.
not necessarily unacceptable,
Okay.
but just
We'll
a
be
large
happy-
impact.
We'll be happy to authorize the board to amend the EAF to say yes to that question.
I think what we
You're going to
need
make
do-
you're going to make that final determination. Whatever we put down, you're going to agree or not agree.
Right. No,
So
you're right.
I don't.
You're right.
Please don't read more into it.
No.
Than the fact that we checked a box. And we're not here to
I
say
think-
there won't be a substantial or there won't be an increase, whether it's significant, substantial, or unacceptable. Those are all characterizations.
And, we could go on and on and on about this tonight.
Right, well,
But
that's
I
what I was going to say.
really-
We need a little more information.
Yeah.
We need
well,
more
we
A
information.
lot
understand
more
that.
information,
Yeah,
and we
but-
need,
I want to hear from the public.
I was just going to say that we
wanna hear
table
what they
this
have to say
portion
about
of it until the next meeting. Hear from the people who are here. I'm assuming
Yeah, I'm
since,
That's what I think we should.
what do you think, Joe, Gary? Table this portion of it till the next meeting,
I
and
just
then
have-
hear from the
I
public?
had one last question in order to get
Sure.
my arms. Jay, is there a protocol which will keep traffic from exiting onto the roads of Brigadoon? There'll be no way that
There
clients
will be
can
no
get-
way. None. Zero.
Because the gate is open now. It was
won't
open
be-
yesterday.
It won't be as part of this site. It will not be
Yesterday it
as
was
part of
open.
this- As part of this site plan, it absolutely will not.
And if somebody were to accidentally try and enter the property through Brigadoon, they
It'll
couldn't
be
get there.
physically impossible, I'm guessing. It'll be barricaded or whatever. It won't happen. And if I could just ask after the public comment, if I can just hold the board for briefly as to what we agree on providing you.
As far, okay. All right.
Karen?
Joe, yeah?
If I may interject here, I would like to hear what Mr. Toro has to say, because that gives me a month to think about what he said and apply it to the stuff that's there, rather than have something given to us next time. I mean, maybe we have to cover some of the ground more than once, but I'd like to hear what the gentleman has to say. So again, I got a month to compare what he said to this and think about it a bit.
All right. Go ahead,
That's
Mr.
not
Toro.
my position.
As far as what issue? The roadway itself, I guess?
Well, first of all, we're dealing just with the roads here, right?
Correct.
And basically, the planning board's going to come in and going to go over the designs and so forth, kind of like normal.
Right.
So we're just talking about impact as far as the decision we're trying to make. Am I correct, Counselor?
Yes. Okay.
All right. So could you give me an encapsulated
Well, we could
thing
look,
that would help
again,
us out with
what I said,
information?
what I said earlier, as far as a mitigating measure with regard to traffic, gravel, spinning ties, et cetera, is easily we can look at putting a paved apron 50, 60 feet in from the intersection.
Is that a planning board issue? Because normally I'm the one that
Well,
wanders
I-
into the
I-
planning board issues and then I get taken to task, so.
It absolutely is within your purview. If you if you're going to consider this variance, we understand that you have, your concerns
We
are
can
going to be
impose
what happens on
conditions.
Ice House as well as what happens on Evans and what happens on Quaker. So we're prepared to, we're going to design this based on the input we get from you, the public, and the planning board and everyone. If you say you want an apron, we're going to consider that and either say yes or no. We're going to say yes. If you have other concerns about the condition of Ice House, we're going to listen to you. If we can, we'll go back, we'll redesign, we'll bring you the plans, you can see them. If you have concerns about the signage on Evans or the signage at Quaker, we'll bring in detail for that, whatever you want. So this is an ongoing process. What we may or may not have shown you in detail now, I mean, we can't show you a final thing because we need your input. We absolutely need your input. And then hopefully by the end of this process, when you're prepared to vote, hopefully we have come to you with a final plan, with final specs, with the design, with signage, everything that is going to make you comfortable to say that the benefit here, that the detriment to the public is not outweighed by the benefit to the applicant. That's the plan. We're not here trying to throw something down your throat or say that what you see is what you get. That's not how this works. We're absolutely looking for input. So, and we appreciate all that. So.
Thank you. Anything else, Joe, that you need to know? You good?
I would have thought that they present to us is generally the way it's been done. This seems like we're building it on the fly here.
I don't think I've ever done one of these, actually.
All right, again,
in all the
Oh, an
years.
EAF? Yeah.
I don't
I've
think
only
I've
been
ever
here
done
Yeah.
about a little over 2 years, okay? My colleague to my right here has been on the planning board, so he's got a depth of knowledge that exceeds mine. But in the past, the folks come in and they say, this is what we're going to do, and we either say this works or it doesn't, so this is a little bit different. So, sir, is there something you can give us that just would kind of fill in the holes of what you are presenting as a
Well-
group for Mr. Pulver?
Initially, as we started, it was a gravel road. Issues come up about spinning of tires, et cetera, so there's a way to mitigate that. As we go forward, if gravel is unacceptable to this board and to this board first, we could look at a tar and chip, which is acceptable road even on local roads. The downside to that sometimes is what came up preliminarily during the planning board was the issue of drainage then. The gravel road, you get a little more pervious to let some drainage through. So that was a consideration why we were looking at gravel.
Are
So,
you saying tar and chip?
yes,
What is that?
it's basically an asphalt base with chip on top that they roll. It's used on quite a few of the back roads and whatnot.
It's like reclaimed tar that's re-rolled out.
Yeah.
But it's flat asphalt. It's
Yes,
not-
it winds up being flat. What they do to emulsify,
Yeah,
they
that's where you get
put
all
the
the-
chip down, then they roll the road.
That's where you
Just-
get all the tar on your car.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. That is a good point, the difference there. It's my understanding that even a gravel road is considered impervious surface, that it does block the water from soaking in, and then, of course, the tar and chip would be that
Yes.
again, more of an impervious surface
Right.
until you get to like a macadam or a concrete.
As you go up the levels, you get less and less pervious surface, correct?
Thank you. Do you have other things, or
Well,
of any
If I can
kind?
just comment on that, to the extent that the road surface may affect drainage, I'm going to assume that's more of a planning board issue. To the extent that it's safe or anything else,
But
maybe
it-
within the
It's your
purview.
question here that we have to decide on.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's no set rule as to what the scope is. If you feel it's significant, we're going to address it. So right now, listen, I'll give you an example. Right now, if you feel it's important to have that asphalt, to have a blacktop collar, apron going 50 feet in, we'll submit it for next meeting. We'll add that right now. And then we'll give you specs on what we propose the road to be going up from there for the rest of the road.
I do have a couple quick questions. This speaks to wetlands a little bit. Are there any wetlands of note on either side of the road? It seems like it's low down by John Kuklas's house.
There's no wetlands
There's no wetlands.
in the vicinity of the roads, no.
All right. Just a quick question for Mr. Pulver. This is a little bit off task here. When I went through Ice House Road, that had always been blocked before, so it was open, and I did take a drive down just to
That
try
was
to get a
you?
feel. That was me,
I
yes.
got you. Now it makes sense. All right, good.
I hope you don't mind.
Not at all.
When I was going through, I saw an excavator in there.
Yeah.
Is there any plans to start any digging or anything like
No,
that?
that's actually a friend's machine who's not functioning right now, so it's kind of a dead soldier just sitting there.
All right. Like I said, I've never been up there. I always stopped at the gate.
Yeah, no, I actually would love and suggest a site visit. I would love to show everybody physically up there exactly what the plans are and what it looks like physically, and if you went to see it, a lot of the questions would be answered just by walking it and letting me point out what we'll be doing and how it would get done.
Well, we'll see after the next meeting what the feeling of the board is. All right,
Sounds good.
thank you.
No problem, thank you.
Let's get to the public.
Any other questions from the board before we go to the public?
I'm good.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Pulver. All right, I'm going to ask for comments from the public. So when you get to the podium, please state your name, tell us where you live, and tell us what you have to say. People in the front row? Are you here for the Pulver application? Yes.
I'm Ruben Rodriguez. I actually live on 7 Ice House. My question will be on the improvement. What would it go in regards to pedestrian
Could you
traffic?
either pick up the mic or...
Because
There.
the study right now, it has to do with traffic, but as it goes now, my kids actually walk down to the bus, and there's a lot of blind spots going towards there, to the bus, so my question would be on that. You know, like how would that be addressed? You know. Oh, and the other thing was, you know, what he said earlier was where it already tells me it's not going to be in good faith of what he was saying, because he said we should have known already when we bought the house that it was a private road and he could do whatever he wants to it, so that already tells me there's not going to be any good faith on what he's doing. But that's what he showed me with that comment.
I have a question based on your comment. When these, no, to Mr. Pulver actually, or to you, when since you owned the property in 2002, correct?
Correct.
What kind of agreement did you have with the homeowners? Was it written? Did you give them a written statement or something that said, you know, you can use this road, or? I mean, how did it come to be that obviously they use the road because they live on it, but they're maintaining it also? So how did that, you know, what kind of permission did you give them?
We've reviewed title from a number of these parcels. I don't believe there is a written road maintenance agreement.
Okay.
There's nothing in writing, I believe. And obviously, unless you have something in hand, there's nothing of record that we've seen. Obviously, the proposal here is that Mr. Pulver is going to do the improvements to the road, and he's going to take on the 100% obligation to maintain the road going forward. So there'll be no contribution, no obligation on the part
So
of
we're
the
talking
landowners.
Plowing,
Maintenance,
paving,
potholes,
repairs.
100%. No contribution at all from the neighbors.
Okay,
That would be going forward.
thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Myro?
And I just wanted to...
If I may? While we're on the subject, this is from the minutes at the planning board back in January of 2018. And basically, you stated at that time that there is one line in the deeds, I guess, of all of the 6 houses that are on Ice House Road. And there's one line in the deeds, in the description part, I would say, for the way it was stated in the minutes, saying, together with the rights of others to use the line, together with the rights of others to use the road. And then you went on to say, this line is in Mr. Pulver's deed as well, so he owns it subject to the rights of others to use the road.
Correct. We don't dispute that. We absolutely agree that other property owners have the absolute right to use the road to get to their properties. That's not a maintenance obligation. That's just simply a statement of right.
But they have maintained the road over the last, well, if Mr. Pulver bought it in 2002, they've maintained the road and plowed the road themselves collectively
Correct.
From 2002 or
Correct.
whenever
Right. That op-
to 2019 spring.
Correct.
So that's over 10 years.
Correct.
So, all right.
So, but what we're saying is that if and when we get an approval, and that obligation, they will not do that anymore. We will improve the road, plow the road, maintain the road, repair the road with no contribution at all from the other owners,
And if I could just,
with a continuation of their absolute right to use the road to get to their residences.
It's been talked of often in the past, in the minutes of the planning board, that was supposed to be closed back when Mr. Brodsky was involved with it,
What was supposed to be closed?
Ice House Road.
Where? At what point?
Well, there's a gate across it right by the Kuklis property. And there was a chain across it, the upper part by Castleton.
Okay,
Now, I don't know when and why. I've come into that recently.
All I can speak to is what will result from a granting of the variance and a granting of the site plan. Upon that occurring, Ice House Road will be improved and maintained and plowed with no contribution from the other owners. There will be a barricade preventing any access from any other place on Ice House Road, from Brigadoon or otherwise. The only use of Ice House will be for the residents and for Mr. Pulver's business, with no obligation carrying forward. What's occurred in the past, I can't tell you. It shouldn't impact this, because this is what we're telling you will occur upon an approval. And we'll put a declaration, we'll record a declaration stating that for so long as the winery's in business, that the other homeowners have no obligation to maintain the road. We'll make it of record. Anybody who buys property will benefit from that declaration. We'll put it of record.
Other people have a chance to speak to that are going to come to the mic. I would say, just before you leave, though, I do have a request. This kind of came up the last time you were here about a year ago, April 11th, 2018. At that time, our attorney, Mr. Donnelly, stated about a written narrative, about a business plan, what the goal is, and what the applicant would ultimately want out of this project. That's in the minutes of that time. I believe it also came up with John Collins, a clear narrative. He said that would have been December of 2018 at the planning board. He was talking more to the traffic study, but he did ask for a business plan, and Andrew, I believe by my notes, who was on the board then, also asked for a business narrative, because we still don't know, is this a year-round project? Is this, May to November, or May to December, or June to December, or what it is?
I'm sorry to cut you short. The last presentation, the last that we submitted, the last submitted to the planning board did include that narrative. If it did not make its way into this package, I apologize. But we did present a narrative to the planning board. We will present you with the same narrative. I'll make sure that's included in the package.
Thank you, Mr. Morrow.
That should include the business plan. If it doesn't answer if we need more information, we'll supplement it.
I'd like that very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Karen?
can I just make a
Mr.
comment?
Pulver?
Yes, I just wanted to address my neighbor's concerns over there. I'm sorry, I don't know your name. What I was going to say is, if your kids walk to the bus now, after the improvements, the blind spot that they have to walk around now on 3 Ice House will be gone. It'll be much safer. Right now, when I drive up there, I am nervous coming up when I hit 3 Ice House coming around the curve. That's going to be gone. That's where it's getting widened, and your kids will be much safer once that road is improved. And I'm going to do my best to show you that I am a good neighbor. I'm sorry you feel that way.
Mr. Pulver, if I may, when it comes to widening the road, I did have some questions really quickly here. The map that you gave us for the old Liebschner property, the one right on the corner there?
Yes.
That still belongs to that gentleman? Or that?
No, I purchased that since we
purchased
spoke.
that?
Yes.
And the other one that came up a little differently was the one on the same corner It's now shown as owned by Ice House Road Associates LLC.
That's me too, sir.
That's you as well?
Yep.
Because on your map, it was shown as Padula, if I'm pronouncing it
It's a
correct?
very recent purchase.
So you own both sides of the roads on that corner now?
Correct.
Because there was a little gouge shown beyond the boundary line on the right-hand side coming downhill. But you own both of those properties now?
Both of those, yes.
All right, thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Is it anyone in the second row? Third row?
Good evening, Paul. Paul Tapborn, 23 Quaker Road. I've been a resident there 20 years.
Could you say your last name again, please?
Tapborn, T as in Tom, A-P-H-O-R-N,
Oh, okay.
Tapborn.
Karen's husband.
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks. That's the way I want to be known. Thanks.
Oh, she grew up on Estrada Road. We know Karen.
That's all right. I'm kidding you. Been a resident over 35 years in Woodbury. Love it. Built my own house on that corner. Couldn't have a better place to live. I have some real issues with what's going on here. First, maybe it's a dumb question, but I got to ask it. What's preventing the access from Brigadoon Boulevard to Mr. Pulvert's? And why are we having an easement when he could just easily go up a 30-foot wide paved road with curbs and drainage and not have any of these issues?
Are you talking about coming up Brigadoon Boulevard?
Correct.
I don't
What's
believe it.
prevention from him doing that? Why doing all this, spending all this money, all this time, and imposing 150 cars an hour to a 24-foot wide road that's barely 15 foot now? The amount of work that's got to go into that, I mean, you're going to have curbs, drainage, blacktop, because the gravel doesn't work. I've lived next to that road for 20 years, and the dust is unlivable. I mean, it's silica. I'm in the construction business my whole life. I know what it causes, silicosis. I actually got millings dumped on that road from a local road job and got them spread to prevent the dust. Now we're going to put it back to gravel. I'm going to have to endure that again. That's not right. I mean, for me and my wife, anybody on that road, that can't happen. So I think we've got a long way to go, and somebody's got to explain to me why we're not using Brigadoon Boulevard for access, and you're going to jam all this traffic on this small little private road who has terrible sight distance on Evans going left to right. I don't go out that way. I go down to Quaker and make a left or a right because it's decent, but it's not great. Right, and then if you're going to come past Evans and make a right onto Quaker to get in there, there's going to be a real mess because that is dangerous. I mean, I don't even like making the left if I'm heading north on Quaker because there's no turning lane there, and you just hold on, hope nobody rears end you because they're not paying attention coming through there. So I mean, we got a long road to hoe here, I think, and you know, drainage-wise. I knew when I bought the property that that's where my house was and this water was coming down. That's fine. I addressed it. It works now. But we put paved road there and there's no curb and no drainage, then I'm going to have a bigger problem. And I don't think that's right.
That flows downhill into like your yard?
Yeah, I'm right at the corner of Ice House and Quaker, the brown colonial
On the
that
left
sits
side.
there. Yeah. So when I come in off of Quaker, and you know, that's no problem. I have no issues with Ice House, but right now with that, until things start to change, and then I think I'm going to have big problems. That's all I'd like to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the third row?
Karen, can I ask Jay a quick question regarding the gentleman's comment?
Well, I think we should just hear from all the public and then,
Sure.
you know, don't make it a question-answer type thing. Just see what issues we need to address in the future.
John Cookless, Ice House Road. I have to agree with Mr. Taphorn about 32 and Evans Road and all of that. There's no way you're going to make lefts and rights and all of that off of those. They're not 90-degree corners there. If you go take a look there, you'll see that they're terrible turns there, sight distance. And also, I was under the assumption, too, that Ice House Road was to be closed. With the gate, it was supposed to stay there. and stay closed as a private thoroughfare. Thank you.
Mr. Kuklas,
Yes.
when did they install that gate?
Whenever Barth owned the property, before Rushmore even bought it, it was there. It was always there. I moved in '84, it was there.
It's interesting.
Yes, you, go ahead.
My name is Liza Rodriguez. I live at 7 Ice House Road. When my husband was saying about the concern about our children walking from our house down to Quaker Road for the bus, Mr. Pulver said that he's going to make the space wider. That's fine for vehicles, but vehicles don't see children sometimes. And when you have alcohol consumption mixed in with that, where is there a safe passage for our kids to walk on that road? Hopefully, God forbid, get hit by a car. And also on 32, the speed is 55 miles an hour, starting, I think, maybe around the cemetery. So the cars start flying down there. And when we stop to make our left onto Quaker Road, to get to our house, there's like, some people don't pay attention behind us, and that's where accidents occur a lot of the time. And it's very difficult to make a left from Evans on to 32, because I've done it plenty of times. You have to look, people are speeding from there very much, and it's just very dangerous sometimes for people that live there. Can you imagine a ton of traffic? Or if we're trying to get out of our house and there is a row of cars coming from his winery down to Quaker Road trying to make a right or left, and we're there in our driveway waiting to get out, it's just going to be a big mess, I feel. It's going to be a big mess. And I know he has to do his business, but we have to live there as well. And we're not going to be accommodated at all. With construction vehicles, whenever he decides to do the road, there's enough space for one construction vehicle. So are we going to be boxed in? God forbid we need medical attention. How is the truck going to get out of there for an ambulance or for a fire truck to get in there? There's a lot of things that we're having problems with regarding his project. So that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to this application? Do I have a motion we keep this public hearing open until?
I think
I
that
have a
Oh, you have
question
questions?
regarding a comment that Mr. Taphorn made.
Okay.
Jay, are you aware of any details in the rules and regs, the HOA rules and regs regarding limitation of commercial traffic in Brigadoon? To
I'm not
access
aware of it
Mr.
because
Pulver's.
we're not impacting Brigadoon.
No, I think Mr. Taphorn asked the question, why don't you bring the traffic in?
If you want to give us that variance, we'll come in that way.
Oh, because they need Route 32, that's why they're coming down that way.
We'll be happy to take that, we'll be happy to come in that way.
That's the
But
reason.
no, what I was asking was, are you aware of anything in the HOA rules and regs that would prohibit that
I
commercial?
think the roads in Brigadoon are public roads.
Yeah.
They're all dedicated roads, so there are no regulations on dedicated roads. But if you want us to prepare a plan for that purpose, we'll be happy to do it.
We're good with this one, thanks.
Didn't think so.
Any other questions? Have a motion to hold the
I'll
public
make a
hearing?
motion, this gets carried over to May 8th.
Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
And it will be renoticed to the people who received the notices for this meeting, as well as the people who did not receive the notices for this meeting. So everyone will have a chance, an opportunity. And if you are here and think of something else to say, you're welcome to come back next month. All righty? Thank you very much.
Can I just briefly just go through my list as to what you may or may not want to see from us?
I have one question to council which may impact that list.
Sure.
We've closed the public hearing.
Do it as part of this meeting. I think it's
Public hearing's over.
determine what you want. Right. So my question effectively is, should there be an EAF? This is the EAF for the whole project, what we have in front of us. It's a duplicate of what was here last year, and it's a duplicate of what the planning board had, right? So should there be a specific EAF related to the roads?
EAF that you have is on this application. That would be an appropriate EAF. And I don't think anything further is required.
Okay.
If it doesn't, you're going to go through that, and there are answers in it. You can accept the answers or not. You're going to make a determination based on those answers as well as the information that's being provided to you by the applicant and members of the public.
Okay. Thank you.
So we're prepared to supplement the record with any information you feel will be necessary for you to answer those questions in the EAF. You know, any empirical data you require from us, and we are happy to provide any additional information you need on the issue of granting the variances. So right now, I understand we're going to submit a copy of the narrative, the business plan that we submitted to the planning board. Are you going to reach out to the highway superintendent, or do you want me to? Do you want us to provide him with a plan, or you'll do it? Okay.
Well, Mike was going to supplement the information with I believe, a written document stating that you believed, your opinion was qualitatively blah, blah, blah. You
Okay.
believe, in terms of safety, road usage, information that was not in the documents we have now. And then those
Jay wants to
documents
know
were going to be handed over
whether you
to
want him to
the
contact the
highway department, correct, Karen?
Yes.
The highway department would get those documents and be able to review them.
Yeah,
And then
Jess is going to do it.
Okay, so Mr. Galante is going to do a brief analyzation
Supplemental?
a supplemental analyzation of the road surfaces, the quality of the roads to handle the traffic. Is that will be submitted to the okay?
both
Mike, you're good
quantitative
with
and
that?
qualitative, whatever
Okay.
we discussed today.
All right.
Thanks.
Mr. Collins is going to be requested to appear. The traffic consultant is going to be requested to appear. I'll ask you this. I'll ask whether you'd like us to do this at this point. Do you want us to submit the road specs, something to emergency vehicles, Ice House Road? I think there's concern as to whether they're going to. You guys want to know
Well, if you
for
don't
a
have a
fact.
plan yet, how can you submit?
Well,
whether
we'll
or
draw.
not-
We know what the width. We know what the proposed width is going to be.
The grade?
We're going to propose the asphalt. They should be able to determine that emergency vehicles can be accommodated so long as the width and the road surface is sufficient. It's going to be a new road surface, so I'm not worried about that. You just want to be certain that a 24-foot width is going to accommodate all of their emergency vehicles. I'm happy to reach out and try to get you that information.
And there was also the question about how pedestrians were to navigate.
Right. I just talked to Mr.
New road
Toro.
that you proposed.
I talked to Mr. Toro about that. We understand the concern. We're going to look to see whether or not we can accommodate something that would be safe for pedestrians, that would accommodate specifically pedestrians along the road. But I need to talk to Mr. Toro about that. That's one of my other issues. I'm going to ask Mike to talk about signage in his supplement at Quaker and Evans. And I know there's going to be, you're going to check on the 239 referral. It wouldn't be surprised me if Maria already made that. Wouldn't surprise me. She's pretty thorough about that.
May I speak to that for a second? There's a copy of a communication to the County Planning Department from approximately a year ago. It's dated March of 18, and it was coming from this board. My suspicion on this is that it got lost in the mail. I don't see a response from the county, and based on the resubmitted plan, I think it should be resent.
That's fine.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
Which one is that?
The 239 referral, and Maria typically does those, so I'll leave that up to you. And listen, I've heard the comments. I'll read between the lines and we'll try to fill in the blanks for whatever. If you have anything specific that you can tell me now, I'll be happy to make the note, but we have a pretty good idea.
Make sure that you get it to Maria 2 weeks in advance.
Yes, we know the submission
Didn't we
deadline.
kind of vote on it? We should
voted to
really,
carry over, but we needed to know what was.
that's fine, but I don't think we should really be,
No, but we know now it's coming.
okay. No, you're out, Karen.
We're down to 4. We still have a quorum.
Mr. Myro, 2 things. Would you make sure that the board has the current set of site plans that's presently in front of the planning board? If it hasn't been submitted already, it might be. And the other thing was you mentioned a narrative, perhaps. Do you have that on your list?
Yeah.
The
Yes.
narrative that was presented
Yes,
to the
that's on the
planning
list.
board. Thank you.
As to the site plan, I'm expecting you would, listen, we've held off on doing the real detail, the real expensive stuff until, because I think the planning board went to an uncoordinated review because they know that we're either going to get the variance or we're not. So, but we certainly will provide you with everything that was submitted to the planning board. I think was it exactly? Okay. I'll confirm it for you, but it's my understanding that what was submitted to you is the version, that last version that was submitted to the planning board. So I've got that along with the narrative.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All righty, so we'll
Appreciate
see
it.
you next month.
We'll see you next month.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Brock.
We are continuing public hearing for Brock. Public hearing to appeal violation order number 2019-012 issued by the building inspector for exceeding the permitted height and location limitations for fencing placed in the side and front yard. In the event the ZBA upholds said violation, the applicant seeks an area variance to permit a portion of the solid 48-inch high fence in the front yard to remain. Pursuant to Section 146-7A of the Village Code, fencing in the front yard shall be uniformly less than 50% solid. Furthermore, the applicant has erected 6-foot-high solid fencing in a side yard, whereas pursuant to Section 146-5B and 146-79A, fencing in a side yard shall not exceed 4 foot high and shall be less than 50% solid. Said property is located in the R2A zoning district at 273 Seven Springs Road in Highland Mills, and is known on the Village of Woodbury tax maps as Section 213, Block 1, Lot 67. The applicant is here. Would you please introduce yourself and possibly spell your name for the secretary? Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. For the record, Charles Gottlieb, G-O-T-T-L-I-E-B, from Whiteman, Osterman, and Hanna in Albany, New York. Just a quick...
Albany?
Well, I live in Saratoga, so it's even further.
Hi. Oh, far away.
Wow.
Just a quick correction on the notice. Instead of 146-79A, it's actually 146-7A. I just wanted to note that in case anyone's looking up the provisions. Again, Charles Gottlieb here on behalf of Mr. Brock, who's right next to me, the owner of 273 Seven Springs Road. We are appealing a notice of violation 2019-12, plus at this time we are requesting 1 area variance. We have submitted 3 separate submissions before your board, one dated February 7th, 2019, one dated February 25th, 2019, and one dated March 7th, 2019. There's a lot of kind of confusion in how this is laid out, and so I'll quickly go through everything, and if you have any questions, please let me know.
Excuse me, what was the first one you mentioned? You have
Sure,
the
it's-
March 7th and February 25th, and what was the other one?
We have a February